Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dylan's Daily Dose. I would like to introduce you to my mom.
Hi, my name is Mia. I am Dylan's mom, and I worked for the LA County Sheriff's Department for 13 years.
So, Mom, when did you get interested in the job?
Well, growing up, I had a cousin that married a gentleman who became an officer for Pasadena Police Department. And I remember listening to all his stories, and it seemed so exciting, and it seemed like super fun to help people, and it also seemed really exciting to take bad people to jail. So that was at a very young age, and I think that was probably when I was 8 years old. My parents weren't really thrilled when I told them I wanted to get into law enforcement when I was 19. So I went to college to become a court reporter, which fell flat, and I just couldn't do it. And then I knew I had to do what my passion was calling me to do, and that was to become a law enforcement officer.
That's cool. What type of training did you go through in your working days?
Well, once you go through the process of trying to get hired, it means you go through an extensive background that takes about a year to get through. Once you get accepted into the Sheriff's Academy, it required 6 months of training, lots of different types of training, although we learned a lot about the penal codes and, what's illegal, what's not. We went through a lot of tactical training, defensive tactics, where you have to learn how to fight. Obviously, we had to use pepper spray on the job, and sometimes we were required to use tear gas, so we actually all had to get sprayed with pepper spray.
Did it hurt?
It didn't hurt me. I got sprayed in the eyes, and I was scared that I'd get called out if I didn't act like I was in pain, so I mostly pretended that it was painful, but I didn't think it was that bad. We also had to go into a house that was filled with tear gas, and then so when you do that, you actually have a gas mask on. You go inside the gas house. You have an instructor that makes you take off your mask and yell out your name, your employee number, to try to get you to suck up as much tear gas as possible and put your mask back on and clear it and go out. I didn't think that was bad either. The tear gas wasn't that hard. And then obviously we had to go through extensive gun safety, where we had to know the nomenclature of our gun, know how to break it down, load it, and be accurate, and which included a lot of target practice. We had to do not only target practice with our handgun, we had to do shotgun courses, which was extremely fun. They used to call me Annie Ugly.
Did that ever scare you, like guns?
Guns don't scare me. When you're proficient with a gun and you take gun safety seriously, we did have a recruit who accidentally discharged a shotgun, which was quite scary. But other than that, guns do not scare me. During the academy, we also receive one of the most fun types of training is driver's training. So we have to be able to go into a spin out with our vehicle, and then we have to be able to safely come out of a spin out, which was super fun. And then we also have to go through pursuit training, which they teach you specifics of how to cut corners and keep on the gas and not let that suspect get out of sight. So that was probably my favorite training.
Okay, so what is your favorite story on the job?
Well, gosh, there's actually so many. There's a couple that really stand out. One was one that happened really local on Santa Gertrudis and Leffingwell. We had to respond to a guy running around in the street naked, which is something you don't really particularly want to see. And it turns out that he was under the influence of PCP, and they have a tendency to feel hot, so they take their clothes off. There's pretty much no real reasoning with these people. So we're running around like, crazy trying to get this guy in custody and help him out. And it just took way more time than we thought. And I ended up having to tase this guy, and thinking that, you think your taser, your less than lethal weapons are going to work. And I shot him with my taser gun, and he proceeded to pull them right out of his body and continue on running. So it took a lot more to take this guy down than anticipated. So that really stands out. So every time I drive by Santa Gertrudis and Leffingwell, I have flashbacks of that happening. So that always stands out to me.
That's crazy.
I know, it was very crazy. Another one was where, because I was a female, I got called out to take a report on a sexual assault. And that happened in the city of Norwalk. And I had to have an interpreter because the victim was a Spanish speaker. And so it was really hard to, it's hard to question somebody where you can't understand, exactly what they're saying, and rely on an interpreter, because I like to hear things, verbatim. But anyways, I'm at the house and we're talking and I'm getting all the information, and turns out that, which does happen quite a bit, the suspect actually returned to the scene of the crime. And as I'm asking the victim what the suspect looked like, she looked out the window and noticed that the suspect was standing outside talking to the deputy standing in front of the house by the radio car that was just kind of hanging out, seeing what's going on. So she looks out the window and she says, "That's him." And make a long story short, we actually had a very clear footprint outside of a window that he climbed through. And me and my partner, we walked outside and we talked to him real casually. He was actually there with his girlfriend and his baby, pushing the baby stroller, acting like they're the perfect family. And he starts talking to us, and we start talking to him, and we noticed that his shoes matched the shoe print in the mud underneath the window.
Dang.
So we detained him and talked to him, more, and he basically just threw himself in the back of his seat and admitted to him kind of being there. And it was actually a clear-cut case, and he went to prison for 14 years, and we never even had to testify because it was so solid. So that was a really good case.
Next, what is your scariest story on the job?
Well, there's not one in particular story. I mean, it's basically when you're contacting somebody that's a potential suspect and they don't listen. One being very scary is domestic violence. You can go and you're there to help the victim, and the victim can suddenly turn on you. So those are always scary because you don't know what's going to happen. And those are the calls that most police officers get injured or potentially killed at. So that's those are always scary. Or when you're dealing with a suspect and you're giving them commands and you're telling them to put their hands up and they're not. So anytime somebody fails to listen to your commands, or they start reaching for their waistband, you automatically think, if somebody's reaching for their waistband, they're gonna be reaching for a weapon, being a knife or a gun. Most of the time, gun is on my mind. So that always gets the hairs of your neck standing up. So anytime a person doesn't listen, it's that fear factor of oh, please don't make me do this, because it's not going to end well for you. So you have to do whatever it takes to get them to comply so you don't have to take any further action, because nobody wants to deal with getting a potential shooting because it's very scary.
Oh, geez, that's very, very scary. Okay, so lastly, what caused you to retire?
Unfortunately, I had a lot of injuries. I had knee injuries and back injuries and neck injuries, just from the arduousness of the job. So I basically was unfit to do an arduous floor job, which is highly, active. And so I couldn't perform the job, and there's no light duty spots. So I was basically forced to retire because of that.
All right, guys, that concludes Dylan's Daily Dose. I hope y'all enjoyed. Goodbye.
Bye.